Well, welcome to our time value of money lecture. As you go through this chapter, you're probably thinking, wow, this is completely overwhelming, way too many formulas. I'm not a math person. Those are some of the standard comments I get when we get to this chapter. So hopefully we can make things pretty simple. I will tell you that the formulas, although they can appear daunting and big, they're not that bad. But like with all technology, there are calculators that you can use. There are online calculators. Excel can do a lot of the calculations for you. So you just need to basically understand what is going on so that you can think through a problem that's going to allow you to use, if you need the formula, obviously you would know it. But there are calculators that can help you solve these. So there are four main types of time value of money problems that we're going to focus on. And if you just think about this as a timeline, timelines help us to see what the value of money is at any point on the timeline. So I have a red timeline down here at the bottom, and let's say that this first point is today, and this last point is sometime in the future. And so these formulas are nothing more than to help us identify, if I was to pinpoint this spot right here with an X, and there's going to be some money that occurs, and I want to know what the value of that amount of money is in the future, what it is today. Well, I can use these formulas to help me figure that out. Or let's say that I'm going to use green here. I'm going to have this amount of money. I have this amount of money today. I want to know what it's going to be worth here. And I can do that if I know certain inputs. So a couple of things that we need to keep in mind when we're looking at time value of money is I'm going to write over here on the right side of the screen. We're going to typically need to know our N. When we look at time value of money problems, N is the number of periods that we are going to use. Typically, you're going to see problems that might say on an annual basis. Although, you might have something where you want to do something on a monthly basis. So N is going to be the number of periods that you're going to have. We're going to have our, what's referred to as our IY, which is our interest rate. Now, our number of periods and our interest rate must always be the same. So, for example, if we are going to have an interest rate of 12% on an annual basis, but we are going to have monthly periods, we need to divide our 12% annual rate by 12. Therefore, we would have 1% per period. Okay? We're going to maybe also need our payment. How much are we going to either pay or receive each period? Okay, and again, the number of periods and the payments need to make sure that they're equal. And what I mean by equal is that if we're going to do payments on a monthly basis, we need to make sure we have our periods in months. If we have payments on an annual basis, we need to make sure our periods are on an annual basis. We also may be looking for our present value. And the present value is nothing more than what is the value of some future amount of money today. Our future value is going to be what is some value that we have today, and we want to know what the value is in the future. And then the only thing else that I want to add here is the beginning / end, and this is when the payments begin. Oops, let me spell correctly here. So that is going to be important if you are looking for, I want to start saving and I want to start saving today. So I need to make sure that my calculations occur starting today. So I would want to put my calculation in beginning mode. And then the other thing that I'm just going to highlight is this concept of an annuity. An annuity is nothing more than a stream of equal cash flow payments. Okay, so equal cash flow payments. All right. Okay, so let's take a look at this formula. We'll go with blue. Okay, future value. When we want to know what the future value of an amount of money is, we're going to take the present value of that and multiply it by 1 plus some interest rate to the number of periods that we have. So let me give you a very short example. Let's suppose we have $100 today. We have $100. We have an interest rate of 5% for 1 year. What is going to be the future value of that amount? Well, if we put that in our formula, we'll have 100 times 1 plus our 5% to the 1 period. And this is going to be 100 times 1.05 to the period of 1. And then this is going to be $105 when we multiply that out. So the future value of a $100 value today, given a 5% interest for 1 year, is going to be $105. Okay, now what if we had for 2 periods? Let's basically do this. Let's say we are going to have 2 periods, and we're going to turn this into 100 times 1.05 squared. Okay, now what we need to keep in mind is that this is nothing more than $100 going to $105, and that's going to go to some number. Okay, so that's how we would solve these problems, and we would go out and out and out. So just let me pull my calculator out, make sure we get the right number. 110.25 cents. So the 25 cents now is going to be the interest on the $5 interest that we have. Okay, and we can just keep going on and on and on. And we need to know the present value, what our interest rate is, and what our number of periods are. So we need to know what our present value is, what our interest rate is, and what our number of periods would be. So what if we know some future value? We want to know what the value of that is today. Well, all we're going to do is rearrange this formula right here and solve for the future present value. So we're going to take our future value and we're only going to divide it by our 1 plus r to the n. This is referred to as discounting. We are moving money backwards. Here, we are moving money forwards. So we're going to compound. So we compound here and we discount here. Okay? All right, so that should be fairly straightforward. Again, just taking the future value formula, and we are solving now for present value. Okay? All right, future value of an annuity and present value of an annuity. Now, these have the same components. They're just ordered in a little bit different way. All right. Future value of annuity. We are going to take an annuity. Remember, stream of cash, equal cash flow payments. We're going to take that payment and we are going to multiply it by our 1 plus r to the n. That should look very familiar. But here we're going to subtract 1 and we are then going to divide that entire number by r. And all of this is now multiplied by our payment. Okay? Now, we're going to do the same thing with present value of an annuity. Only this time we have 1 minus our 1 over 1 plus r to the n. This should look very familiar. Should look something like this. We're discounting. Remember, we're discounting. We're going to subtract that from 1 and divide by r and multiply that by our payment. So I just wanted to go through this so that you had some familiarity and a little bit of discussion about the formula. Understanding that as long as you understand the inputs, you should be able to use a financial calculator or Excel to solve these problems. And I want you just to understand that the time value of money is nothing more than determining the value of money along a timeline. We can move money back, we can move money forward, and the values will be equal given these parameters. So again, I hope this is just a kind of a recap from the text chapter that you've been looking through. This type of concept can help you solve a lot of problems. I want to save for a down payment on a new house in a given, maybe in a couple years. I know that I can put the money in the bank account that's going to earn a specific stated amount of interest. What is it going to be when I'm ready to use that money? I want to invest. I want to have $1 million by the time I retire. That's going to be 30 years. I want to have specifically $1 million by the time I retire. What do I need to put in today? Well, I can start to solve for the present value of an annuity. I can use this formula, but I'm going to solve for payment. If I know what the present value is, let's say I have 0, that's 0. I can solve this for payment. So we can use these formulas to help us with our budgeting, to help us with our planning. That's why this is in setting long-term goals. So again, I know this can seem confusing. Feel free to watch this lecture again, but I hope it helps to set the framework for added benefit as you read through the chapter.